Hello and welcome. My name is Vineet Malhotra and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for a landmark two-day visit. Defense, energy and trade are expected to be discussed amid ongoing global tensions. US Vice President J.D. Vance has confirmed that an aid-trade agreement has been finalized between US and India at a speech at the Jaipur Business Summit. This comes after a meeting with Prime Minister Modi yesterday as Vance continues his four-day visit to India. Well, cardinals have met in the Vatican following the death of Pope Francis on Monday, with plans being made for his funeral. The Pope's coffin will be taken to St. Peter's Basilica in an open casket for the public to pay their respect. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has called Vladimir Putin's 30-hour Easter truce a marketing operation, and the comment comes after Vladimir Putin stated he was open to direct conversations with Ukraine over a potential ceasefire. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his New Zealand counterpart Christopher Luxon have met with Ukrainian troops being trained in England. Both leaders are expected to announce strengthening security and defence ties following the meeting. Israeli strikes in Gaza have reportedly killed at least 23 people since dawn, according to local media. This comes as Palestinian officials suggest that Qatar and Egypt have proposed a long-term permanent Gaza ceasefire that would see the release of all Israeli hostages. US President Donald Trump has backed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over reports of a second Yemen strike signal chat leak. Meanwhile, the White House has denied reports that it is looking to replace Hegseth amidst the controversy. Harvard has sued to block US President Donald Trump from freezing $2.3 billion in federal funding. The university had rejected a list of White House demands after Trump's administration raised concerns over pro-Palestinian protest on campus. Gunmen in Jammu and Kashmir, India opened fire on a group of tourists today, with at least 5 people killed, according to a senior politician in the Himalayan region. Security forces and medical teams have rushed to the area. A search operation is also underway. Well, the Indian Prime Minister Modi has arrived today in Jeddah for a two-day state visit to Saudi Arabia. He was greeted with a grand gesture as Saudi F-15 fighter jets escorted his aircraft upon entering Saudi airspace. This visit is Prime Minister Modi's third to the kingdom and his first to Jeddah, and it underscores the deepening strategic ties between the two nations. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi is set to co-chair the second leaders' meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council alongside Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The two leaders will review and strengthen bilateral cooperation across key areas including space, energy, health, technology and culture. At least 6 significant MOUs are expected to be signed during this visit. Upon arrival, a vibrant welcome awaited the Prime Minister with enthusiastic members of the Indian diaspora gathering at a Jeddah hotel singing patriotic songs. And Saudi businessman Hani Kayal called India the kitchen of startups and voiced excitement over localizing Indian innovations. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will also be addressing Hajj-related matters and meet with the Indian community in Saudi Arabia, which numbers 2.7 billion. Ahead of the visit, he described Saudi Arabia as a trusted friend and strategic ally, emphasizing shared regional interests and cooperation. This visit marks another milestone in the growing India-Saudi partnership, reflecting both nations' shared commitment to innovation, stability, and economic collaboration. Uday Pratap Singh, my colleague, is joining us live from Jeddah at this point in time. Uday, thank you for speaking with us. This is, of course, a very important strategic conversation that is going to take place between the Indian Prime Minister and Mohammed bin Salman. 6 MOUs, Uday, are also going to be finalized. What, according to you, is going to be the theme of this association that is being chartered at this point in time by the Prime Minister and his counterpart?
Well, absolutely, Vineet. Of course, it's a host of these 6 key agreements which will be inked later this evening right here in Jeddah between Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India. Now, we are currently standing, before I get to some of those aspects, of course, of what all will be on the agenda in that bilateral summit tonight, because all eyes will be shifting to the palace later, where, of course, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be hosted by the Crown Prince. But right now, I'm at the Ritz-Carlton here in Jeddah. This is, of course, the hotel where Prime Minister Modi is staying. This is where, of course, he was greeted by the Indian diaspora earlier. And this is, of course, where, the Indian diaspora, of course, also just met with PM Modi a short while back. We just saw, in fact, Prime Minister Modi leave from that meeting. It was about a 30-minute meeting which he held with members of the Indian community here, from businessmen to other prominent members of the diaspora. So, of course, he was greeted by some of them earlier in the day, but it was a more structured meeting that just took place here in one of the ballrooms at this hotel. The Prime Minister, of course, also after that is expected to meet with certain prominent editors, of course, of Arab publications here. Remember, he, of course, has given an interview to Arab News just on the eve of his visit. In fact, we've interviewed the deputy editor-in-chief of that publication, who actually did that interview exclusively on NewsX World. We perhaps will be playing out that interview shortly as well. In which she spoke about what she felt the PM's pivot was for India-Saudi relations going ahead. But yes, now coming back to your earlier question, Vineet, about what is going to be on the agenda today. So energy, trade, defense, economic ties, agriculture, security. These are going to be the main themes, of course, prevalent in that meeting today. In fact, MOUs in that direction are going to be signed. The meeting, of course, happening in Jeddah, the commercial hub, gives us a sense that trade and economy is going to be the focus of the meeting today, which is why this venue has been chosen over, say, Riyadh, where the Prime Minister has visited earlier. Also, IMEC, the vision, the roadmap for that expected to be laid out as well. Remember, that's something, of course, that was announced in New Delhi when India chaired the G20 summit. This, of course, will give the two leaders an opportunity to take that vision forward. Also, the Strategic Council, that, of course, the first meeting happened in India. The second Strategic Council meeting, of course, is going to be happening today. In fact, we saw Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar here earlier as well at this hotel. He, of course, has also reached Jeddah for that structured meeting that is going to happen later tonight. There are a host of other businessmen as well.
All right, Uday, appreciate you joining us. Thank you for those latest updates. Mr. Asif Ramiz Dowdi, Middle East expert, is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Dowdi, it's important to understand that the IMEC, the India-Middle East corridor, is a very ambitious project that India has propagated and, of course, looked for partners in. This is in tune with the competition that India has always exuded, sir, when it comes to China as well. And Saudi Arabia can become a very important limb in that strategic partnership.
That's very true. In fact, when you talk about IMEC, its significance and how it will connect India, especially to the other part of the world. When you talk about Middle East, even if you look at the abbreviation IMEC, it says India, and the other parts are Middle East and Europe. So it doesn't say Asia, Middle East, Europe. So India is that kind of significant to the world. And when it comes to its relationship with Saudi Arabia and the role that this region can play in the supply chain and how the entire trade system and the economic enhancement, etc., are going to be in the better path. So that is something which everybody is looking at. I believe there will be lots of, plenty of positive outcomes from this meeting, especially for the Indian diaspora here, for the locals. Since I've been here in this country for over 2 decades, I've seen how things have been developed, changed, and improved. And this particular visit, especially when we talk about India's relationship with Saudi Arabia, and it's not just the bilateral relationship. It's not just buying and selling crude oil or energy. It's beyond that. And it's quite ancient. It's like it has its own history, which has evolved in a very different, drastic way in the past years. And this particular visit has many roles to play to even further enhance the relationship of India and Saudi Arabia, which has already been quite robust. But when we talk about a strategic partnership council, when we talk about these kinds of relationships, it's not just related to any one particular vested interest. It shows the kind of bonhomie, it shows the kind of feeling for each other, feeling for the true kind of impact that the citizen of both the countries can see, and how Saudi Arabia looks at India and how India looks at Saudi Arabia, the way Prime Minister Modi has been welcomed and he was invited. I, on behalf of every Indian living here, being the expatriates, one of the preferred expatriates, having all kinds of support from the local government and His Royal Highness the Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman, etc., would like to thank the leadership
Mr.
of
Dowdy,
Saudi Arabia
appreciate you
for
having
inviting.
us. Appreciate you being here, sir. Moving on, Qatar and Egypt have put forward a new ceasefire proposal to end the Gaza conflict. The plan calls for a 5-7-year truce, complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and the release of all Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. A senior Hamas delegation is expected to travel to Cairo for further discussions. Hamas has shown unprecedented flexibility, even signaling a willingness to relinquish control of Gaza to a Palestinian entity, such as the Palestinian Authority. However, the proposal does not clarify the status of non-Israeli hostages held by Hamas. Despite the seriousness of the mediation efforts, Israel has not yet commented on this plan. Tensions remain high with ongoing Israeli airstrikes in Gaza that have killed 22 Palestinians since Monday. Both sides are holding firm on their demands, with the situation remaining uncertain. The proposal follows the collapse of a previous ceasefire agreement and Israel's resumed military operations. All right, Mr. Yossi Cooper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence, is joining us at this point in time. Sir, appreciate you being here and talking to us. You're a security expert, sir. Why do you think that Israel would be approaching this proposal, which has been discussed in Cairo, with a pinch of salt?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Former intelligence, in the Israeli intelligence. Yes, I think that Israel is very has many concerns about this proposal by the Egyptians and by the Qataris, because it doesn't solve the problem. It leaves Hamas with its military capabilities in Gaza and provides Hamas a long term of security for them while they are producing insecurity for Israelis. And this is not going to be accepted by Israel, I guess, because Israel wants to make sure that Hamas does not stay in power, not only from the point of view of civilian issues, but also from the point of view of security issues. And this proposal seems to ignore this issue. So I don't think this is going to be satisfactory for Israel. And there is a meeting of the Israeli Security Cabinet this evening that they are going to discuss it. But my guess is that they are going to oppose it.
Right, and so do you think that this kind of a proposal that has been put forth by Egypt is even a possibility, considering the fact that the Hamas will allow an outside entity to run and rule Gaza?
They don't. Hamas doesn't care if somebody else rules Gaza from the civilian point of view, but as long as they keep the weapons in their disposal. And there are those who are preparing again and regrouping and rearming in order to carry out another attack like the horrific one that they carried out on October 7th, 2023, then this is not a solution. This is just a way of enabling Hamas to stay in power. And that's not going to be acceptable by Israel.
All right. And so how would you describe the position in which Israel would find itself in if this proposal was to be taken seriously by the powers that be in Israel? Do you think that it's going to come with conditions Because so far there hasn't been any reaction from Israel.
Yeah, well, as I said, the Israeli cabinet, security cabinet, is going to meet this evening, and they're going to probably oppose this and deny this proposal. And I don't think that this is going to be considered a serious proposal by anybody. And what we are going to see, in my mind, is more pressure put by Israel over the Hamas in order to release the hostages and being removed from power in Gaza. That's what's going to happen in my mind in this security cabinet meeting. And this is the only way that makes sense at this point. And we hope that Hamas will come back to its senses, and so will the mediators, and this would make it possible for promoting a more reasonable deal that would see the release of all the hostages, not in the return of Hamas staying in power in Gaza. Something else should happen, and Hamas should be giving up their weapons and leaving Gaza altogether for the control of some more moderate and reliable entity.
Right, and so there have been some negative references as well. Ronan Bar has also put out a few statements, that have accused, the Prime Minister as well. Do you think there's this internal discord that should in fact be placated? Because obviously there are third parties that can take advantage.
Yes, it's a pity that domestically we are at each other's throat in Israel here. But this doesn't change much when it comes to the confrontation with the Palestinians and with the conflict with Hamas. And I think most Israelis agree that we cannot go back to where we were on October 7th. And there's a difference of opinion here about who is to blame for what happened on October 7th, and what happened with the intelligence, and what did the Prime Minister do before October 7th, and how he allowed Hamas to accumulate all these weapons and get prepared for carrying out this attack, and so on and so forth. A lot of issues that are in disagreements here in Israel. But that said, when it comes to fighting Hamas, we are all united, and I think that that's what you see right now. We fight against Hamas, and we are not going to let Hamas remain in power in Gaza.
So there is, there is a possibility and a probability of a ceasefire being discussed between the Russians and the Ukrainians. Do you think that's going to be enough incentive for Israel and Hamas to follow suit?
No, I think this is a positive incentive, but not enough, because nobody gives up their arms in the Russian-Ukraine potential ceasefire. And here what is needed is for Hamas to give up their arms, to reach a real ceasefire, and they refuse to do that. And as long as this is their position, I don't think that we are going to make a breakthrough.
All right, sir, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us and giving us those valuable insights. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring more news and updates from around the world. Thank you for watching.